I'm very pleased now to be joined by not only a author that I recommend everyone, best-selling, I think, 12 times over, brilliant, funny, a great provocateur as well, and also one of my one or two friends in this movement and in this industry, Ann Coulter. Ann, how are you today?
Fantastic. How are you? One of my friends, too, in the movement.
But you have loads and loads of friends. I joke my only friends are you and Charlie Hurt. Those are my only two friends. So that's the ongoing joke. I think I have thousands of friends in the audience, maybe even millions. They don't give us all the numbers here at SiriusXM, but it is always something that's enjoyable to talk to you. And there's one thing that I like about speaking with you, which is that you and I agree on 90% of stuff. But if we ever did disagree, it would be fun to talk through why. I'm sure you'd get mad eventually, but we are moving to a point now where if we don't have entire universal agreement, then we now think less of the person on the other side of the conversation, and we're going to this.
You're totally right. I could not agree more, and it's driving me crazy in this era of Trump. It used to be one of my favorite things to do, to go out with liberals or conservatives of a slightly different stripe. And, it's fun to argue at dinner parties. You can't do that anymore. I mean, you and I may be the only two people who can argue. We ought to find what we disagree about so we can finally have a fun argument again.
We could have a debate. We're gonna have to pick something that would be probably pretty obscure, because I do look to you for a lot of guidance, and I know that you're a big booster of Breitbart, which we're always very grateful for. But this is, and it continues in the Trump White House also, by the way, because I know that I get lots of negative feedback from inside the White House. We're 90% with the president, 95%, and it's even there. Apparently, they need some sort of universal agreement, which is it's just nuts, and it's a shame because as it's so entertaining, it's so fun, and I thought disagreeing was a quintessential American, really a Western value. I thought it was the Far East, it was Europe, Eastern Europe in particular, Russia, China, where you're not allowed to disagree, North Korea, where you're not allowed to disagree,
right.
South America, where you're not allowed to disagree, Central America. Now, I thought America, this was the land of freedom of speech. We're not there, and the big headlines.
Just being part of our history and tradition. I forget which network it was. Probably MSNBC, since my remote is spot welded to MSNBC all day. But they had the audacity to make fun of President Trump for my favorite story earlier this week was that Trump found Melania watching CNN on Air Force One and blew up. I so love that about the president. Anyway, they all start sneering. Yes, it was MSNBC and the New York Times, I guess, had reported that story. They're all sneering at Trump for, can't listen to opposing points of view. Excuse me, MSNBC and New York Times, have you read your own newspaper? Have you watched your own network? And so, watching television in the era of Trump, they get wilder and wilder in their conspiracy theories because they don't allow, any normal, in my view, any normal person could be on these panels and could pull the thread that sort of would collapse the entire argument. There are things there are arguments they can make, but they don't make them, and they get wilder and wilder because there's no one there to disagree with them.
Yeah, you've already given me a ton that I want to follow up on, particularly MSNBC, because I know you, like me, find them to be the most entertaining of the networks. But I am starting to get a little annoyed because I used to think they were higher integrity than CNN, but the meltdowns there, the enabling of clowns like John Brennan over and over again, I am starting to get a little annoyed. Is it just me, or am I onto something?
Oh, I never thought they were they were reasonable, or that I would get the truth from watching them. It's always been entertainment. There are some smart people on MSNBC.
Yes.
It's just that they're zealots, and their zealotry gets in the way, and also their absolute abject refusal to listen to any opposing point of view. I ran into somebody who does the programming. I will not reveal who it is, so I'll say for one of those two networks, CNN or MSNBC. And it was at a New York party, and I said to him, there were like 100, 200 people there. I said, now, I am almost surely the only person in this room who voted for Trump, but I have to tell you, there are a lot of us out there, barely enough to make him president. And I'm thinking it would be great if your network ever put one on.
Right. Yeah, and this is where I find CNN, which has become a national joke, even when they broke the latest Michael Cohen non-story, that they still finish in third place in cable news that night on Chris Cuomo's primetime show. The nepotism there is just unbelievable, that he would get a primetime show and then no one's tuning in anyway, even when he's got the biggest scoop on the planet. It's hilarious and fun in many ways. But also, if you think about where CNN is, their idea of a Republican pundit is Rick Wilson. I won't get into the details of some of the horrible things he said, but guys who make their living attacking the president and getting establishment media accolades. Jeff Zucker and the folks at CNN put those people on as representatives of the Republican Party at this point in time.
Hilarious.
And it's like, how dumb do they think we are? It's such a lie. It's so disingenuous. And this is why I do think MSNBC is better, because there is a more authenticity to their radical leftism than CNN's equally radically left. They're just lying about it every second.
The distinction I would draw, I think their politics. You may have a much finer barometer for these things than I do. I think their politics are about the same.
Yeah.
CNN's specialty is they will prove that they're the intellectual network by, number one, using really physically unattractive people as their hosts, and having their hosts wear glasses. And number three, being boring. I mean,
yes.
At least MSNBC, it's funny, it's exciting. The politics are the same, but the zealotry is way more exciting. And by the way, in case this is not clear in what I'm saying, the idea, the very idea of freedom of speech isn't just, screw you, Europe, we have a freedom you don't have. No, the idea, there is a utilitarian purpose to free speech, and that is you get to the truth by having a competition of ideas the same way you have a competition of, shoe stores and restaurants, and let the best one win. Well, we want a competition in ideas, and it is absolutely not true that I have not changed my mind from, I'm constantly refined positions by arguing, generally with people I share many assumptions with. That makes it easier. Every argument doesn't have to begin with, and then the earth cooled. So, we have I know we share some of the same values and principles, and we'll disagree about things. And I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind arguing at some of the better colleges with college kids asking questions in question and answer. Sometimes they're very clever, and I like the back and forth. It's not only fun, but it's actually educational and productive. That is not permitted in today's media. It is 100% who can say the craziest stuff about Trump, and on the other side, who can defend even the crazy things Trump does.
Sure. And I want to get to that, and that's the centerpiece of where we are, because my big fixation this week on radio has been the blue wave and whether or not it's coming. And I've concluded that most of my audience, and I was incorrect on this, I thought most people in the audience
want the truth. No, they don't.
Yeah,
Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, well, I was going to say I thought most of them thought the blue wave was fake news, and then I was saying, well, there have been 43 or so House seats that have flipped to the Democrats, and I'm trying to figure out, what is it? I understand the hysterical nature of the left makes you think they're going to lose, but the enthusiasm's there, and the numbers, they seem to be flipping seats. And I don't get the approach that some of my colleagues in talk radio are taking, just to poo-poo the concept of a blue wave. But I want to get your thoughts on it. I don't know what they are. Maybe you think it's real. Maybe you think it's fake. Maybe you think it's somewhere in between. What are you thinking right now?
I can totally explain the entire phenomenon to you. And
Please do.
Oh my gosh, do I agree with you, Alex Marlowe. I don't go on TV and radio or write columns and lie. I may get in trouble. You may not agree with me. But you can always count on me saying what I think is true, and this has been a problem for me basically every election year where, you go on TV, especially TV, not as much radio. They're a little more intellectual on radio generally, and say, so who's going to win? And apparently what we're supposed to be doing, Alex, is not giving our opinion of who is going to win. No, this is the cheerleading part of the part of public commentary. And people just like to hear. I mean, I was banned from Fox News for that entire, what was it? When did Obama get elected? 2008 election, because I said, of course, McCain is going to lose. Banned. So every night I'm sitting home alone, not doing TV, watching Dick Morris on Fox News whispering sweet nothings in conservatives' ears. Oh, it's going to be huge. It's going to be a landslide for Romney. So I mean, maybe I just shouldn't even talk about it. We'll see it when we see it. Apparently, there is something to this phenomenon, and that's why I say maybe I just shouldn't even talk about it. I would think I have a completely different mentality. If my side is losing, that would make me angry, and I'd say, no, I've got to get out to the polls. But apparently a large mass of people, they want to be part of something bigger. If there's a wave, they're okay, in that case, I'm going to be part of this wave, so I'll be happy on election night. It's hard for people like you and me, and I'm sure the listeners, to imagine such a person, but some people just don't care that much about politics, the direction of the country. They just want to be part of something bigger. So if people think there is going to be a blue wave or think this or that, I mean, obviously it didn't affect Donald Trump's election. Everybody thought he was going to lose, except a few of us. And people just went down and voted
present company excluded there. And present company excluded. So
right, but in general, people, the reason people are lying, and Republicans all say, no, there's not going to be a blue wave, and liberals all say, yes, there's going to be a blue wave. Now, as for what the truth is now, and for those of you who insist on having sweet nothings whispered in your ear rather than the truth, there are a few things I'd mention. One is I'm kind of mad at all these Republicans for retiring. I mean, we're losing, I forget, I counted it up a month ago, but we're losing like 7 House seats right out of the bat. Corker, his seat will probably be taken by a popular ex-governor instead of that wonderful woman. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to discourage anyone. But at least according to the polls at this precise moment, if an incumbent isn't going to lose, except in a district that has completely flipped.
Sure.
So I'm mad at these Republicans. You know, you're supposed to care about the party and care about the country. Screw you guys. Oh, Trump, you're so awful. I have to retire. Anyway, so we're losing some straight off the bat with that. The other thing is, I think we do have a secret weapon, and unlike every other time you're going to hear that in politics, I'm not talking about the candidate's wife. You know, they always say that about secret weapon.
That's right. That's always the candidate's wife. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I hate that. Anyway, our secret weapon is the candidate, i.e. Donald Trump. And I mean, if they have 3 functioning brain cells in the White House, they will be blocking out Donald Trump's calendar right now for all of September and all of October, and do nothing but send him around the country to hold rallies. He likes doing it. It has to do with this country. It's good for governing, because he'll see, I love when he gets feedback from the crowd and finds out we didn't really care about moving the embassy, but we did want that wall. It's just great all around, and that, I think, could go a long way to stopping a blue wave.
Yeah, I think it could too, and I think the getting Trump on the ballot, so to speak, is a crucial thing. But I think it's going to be a little more difficult. I think the Democrats' message super easy. The message is Trump bad. Here's how you stop them. Vote for us. And the Republicans' message is Trump pretty good. I'm not 100% sure, but we think he's mostly pretty good. And even though we didn't really help him execute anything in his agenda for the most part, aside from some tax cuts and wonderful judicial picks, which I want to mention that as well. Credit to you, Ann, for the Kavanaugh selection as well. I know you and Breitbart were given a lot of credit both, and we deserve a little victory lap on that. We should probably spend a little more time on that in the next segment. But it's a couple of big successes, but the president's mostly doing it on his own. And so here's how you need to support the president: by voting for the Republican Party that didn't really do much to help him out. That's a much harder circle to square on the right side of the aisle. And that's why I'm looking at it. I'm going, that's a much tougher sell than the Trump bad vote in the people who can stop him.
Well, for anyone who will listen to me, let me just say, I don't care what you think of Republicans in Congress. You can't possibly hate them more than I do. I don't care what you think about Trump. If the Democrats get a majority, very, very bad things will happen. It is in American history, the absolute worst things that have ever been done to this country have happened after some huge blue wave. It was after
That's right.
Goldwater,
Yes.
that Goldwater Congress that we got, the Immigration Act that wrecked the country, that we got the Great Society programs, after the Watergate Congress that came in. Oh, good grief, they were passing just the most atrocious legislation in such a profusion. They didn't even have time to read the bills. Forget about anything, but you must vote Republican. I don't care how much you hate these Republicans. Again, you can't hate them more than I do. Vote Republican just to stop the Democrats.
This is so important, and we've talked about this on the show in the past, which is being not on the left is sufficient at this point. Of course, when we are in primaries, you're trying to get the most MAGA candidate possible, but after that, you got to be adults. You can't do what these Never Trump babies did.
Right.
And this is the problem here, is that I think you and I could disagree, but needless to say, I throw something out at you. We have almost the exact same position on it. I had no clue what you were going to say. You could have said the blue wave is a big load of crap. You could have said the blue wave is inevitable and said you're coming down exactly where I am, which is that we got an uphill climb. It can be done if people have the right approach to it. And again, there's no guarantee that they're going to have the right approach, but getting Trump, making him the focus, making him the driving factor.
Make him do the rallies. He loves
him do the
them.
rallies.
He's good at them. That's what we could do to stop the blue wave. That will help so many Republicans every place, because then that sort of counters what I was describing at the beginning, this sense that you're part of something larger. The entire Trump movement gives you a sense that you are a part of something larger.
Okay, so Ann Coulter's with me. Let's pay some bills. When we come back, I'm going to ask Ann about the Kavanaugh pick. I'll ask her to tease her book that she's working on, and also I have to get into it. I'm back on the wall again, Ann. I know it's going to be. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do this next segment on a ledge because I feel like hurling myself off of it or into oncoming traffic way too often. So I'll get. We will crack wise on that as well. Just give us a couple minutes. We'll be right back on Breitbart News. Back to business on Breitbart News Daily with 12-time best-selling author Ann Coulter and myself, Alexander Marlowe. So, Ann, I teased three things before the break. Let's take them one at a time. First off, you're working on a book. Can you tell us anything about it?
Why, yes, I can. For one thing, there's going to be a huge Breitbart Embassy party for it the week it comes out, August 21st. The title is Resistance is Futile: How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. And it's fantastic.
Okay, so any details on what's in it, why it's so fantastic, why the resistance is futile?
I'm a maniacal researcher, and I think there's a lot of new stuff that people have noticed. It's kind of driving me crazy that I'm not able to say it yet. And also, I know that I'm familiar with the Twitter generation, being a big fan of Twitter. So I keep the chapters very short, lots of headings, jokes, sprightly writing, everything's footnoted, and a lot of things are really going to surprise people.
Yeah, and this is part of the reason why I always endorse Ann, is because I think she's just as funny, if not funnier, than all these left-wing late-night hosts. She just doesn't get her due because, unfortunately, Ann, your politics are all wrong. They're all correct in my view, and I think in the view of most Americans at this point. But they're all wrong when it comes to the powers that be in the media, and which is why they're failing, which is a delight for me. But when will they just learn that they need to acknowledge the rest of the country? It's just never going to happen, is it?
No, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was watching, I don't have a job, I was watching the Pompeo hearing, and I happened to notice that senator after senator, including a bunch of Republican senators, now I was, dusting and picking up around my home, so I didn't catch all of their names. I was thinking of going back and looking at the transcript, because I was just getting angrier and angrier hearing these senators talk about how, well, I just got back from a trip with my colleague, the Honorable blah, 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 from a trip to Sweden, and what they tell us they need. And another one, I think it was Kuhn, saying that he just got back with a Corker from a trip to Ukraine, and what they need in terms of trade is the following. following. And there was actually one who said, I forget what state he was from. It just shows you what a disaster diversity and this our immigration policies have made of this country. But it was a state where you would not expect it. He begins his questioning by saying, as you know, and I don't know, it's a totally American state. It's like Iowa or Idaho or Ohio or something. So I forget what it was, but let's say it's Idaho. Idaho has a large Burmese American population, and what they're concerned about is the Burmese military. And then I just got ticked off and left the room. Have any of these senators been to a burned-out factory town? Have they been to any American cities that have been destroyed by heroin and OxyContin? Were any of them alive for 2016?
Yes, and we're trying to give them the playbook here. We describe it on the show. It's all out there. We just did a huge story by Chadwick Moore at Breitbart just a week or two ago where we sent him for a week to Danville, Virginia, a town that's been routed by the exit of the textile industry from this country. It's harrowing stuff that's going on, almost entirely ignored. Finally, Trump gets it, but the rest of the Congress doesn't get it. And it's there. The playbook is there for people to go get it. These are slam dunk windmill 360 jams that anyone on the Republican side can go for, and they're not going for it because they're not paying attention. They're simply not tuned in.
I think it's the media and their corporate donors. They know they can make a lot of money. They'll have a job waiting for them afterwards. I saw a couple of idiot Republicans on today. I don't even know who they were, but on either CNN or MSNBC. It's got to be CNN. I don't think MSNBC would have any Republican congressman on. But, they're doing the old John McCain suck up to the media by bashing Trump, and not bashing Trump for anything he deserves to be bashed for, like, I don't know, not building the wall.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to talk about that until the midterms because it's going to be very bad if Democrats take control. See the last segment. But there are just so many. It's cowardice and greed. I mean, where is our pal Speaker Ryan going to be working when he leaves? I think he'll be making a pretty penny by selling out to his corporate donors.
Yeah, that's right. And the donors are controlling so much, and the pattern of when things go awry, it's almost all traceable back to the donors. And we could either take this in the direction of Kavanaugh, where I think there's a playbook to oppose Trump's judges by Republicans run by the donors. I think that there's also the wall is clearly a donor issue. The immigration stuff is just, it still continues to not get resolved. And unfortunately, the White House has just dropped so far down their priorities list. And I think this is a total ticking time bomb here, that there's no wall, there's no plan for a wall. And I am very disturbed by it because I think this puts the entire presidency in the balance if the wall does not get built. And there is no one taking it seriously, apparently not even in the White House at this point.
No, I know. I mean, the original sin was Trump hiring all of these establishment, swampy, never Trumper types. No one's there to tell them, hey, remember that promise you campaigned on? And every single campaign rally with 10, 20, 30,000 people, 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes 4. Remember what chant they were saying? Mm-hmm. Was it, I will hire half of Goldman Sachs? No, it was not, Mr. President.
Yes.
No, there's no one to tell them that.
Last I checked, it was build the wall. It was build the wall. I also heard a little bit of lock her up, which that's another story. But
just for fun.
That was just for fun. But let's focus on build the wall, because I really do think the fact that Obamacare never got repealed and replaced fully, and the wall never got built, which were pretty much the two biggest motivating things. Look, I think chain migration is a problem. I think the visa lottery is a huge problem. I want all that stuff done. Not to mention all these other great initiatives the president has. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer on this thing, but I am saying that the top 1 or 2 promises the president's made are not even in the works at this point. And this is should make people very, very concerned and motivated to get things moving, and yet I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling the energy.
No, it's really depressing, and I just wish Trump would realize that. I mean, of all secret weapons of our secret weapon of Donald Trump, if he build the wall, the media will go crazy. It will distract over everything,
Yes.
and his poll numbers will go through the roof. There is a reason. I mean, we thought Trump understood it, but I can tell you the voters understood it. There's a reason we wanted the wall, and that was so that all of us don't have to be on constant alert for the next wave of poverty-stricken, very needy, uneducated immigrants pouring across our border. No, right now, Breitbart has to kick into gear, and Drudge has to kick into gear, and I have to kick into gear, and we have to tell the truth about what's going on and demand information. No, we can't. We want to get back to our lives and not keep fighting each one of these onslaughts, because, as I've said before and said in Adios America, it actually is what Bush used to say about the terrorists. We have to be right every time. They only have to be right once. And with these endless onslaughts with, it was the unaccompanied children, and now it's, they can't be separated from their parents, the coyotes and drug dealers. We can't keep fighting the entire MSM, the entire donor class, 100% of the Democrats, 50 to 80% of the Republicans. That's why we wanted a wall. We need a rest.
Yeah, we do. You're absolutely right. And not only is it smart policy, and it is something that will get the base jacked up, because I'm seeing the base at about a 6 out of 10. I'm seeing the resistance at an 11 out of 10, maybe even a 12 out of 10. Enthusiasm. The base wants the wall more than anything else. And I think, second of all, I think they would like Obamacare out of their lives forever. Neither of those are happening, Ann. And so this is what I'm trying to say, is that there's a few months left to try to get some enthusiasm going. And I'm seeing the low-hanging fruit is not being taken. I like what the president's doing on some of these national security initiatives, but that's not what's going to get the base jacked up. What's going to get the base jacked up, they start seeing guys with hard hats down there at the border building a freaking wall.
Absolutely 100% right. I can't blame Trump for Obamacare. But basically, and I said this during the campaign, part of the genius of Trump's campaign was everything except Obamacare. Of all of his main promises, I would say there were 3 absolutely crucial ones. Won't get us involved in any more pointless wars.
Yes.
We'll end the job-killing trade deals, and we'll have an immigration policy and a wall is part of that, a big part of that, that would serve America's interests. But even beyond that, everything he was promising, and certainly those 3, they are 100% in the power of the executive. Everyone would say, how's he going to get this through Congress? Everything of his crucial promises, they are 100% the job of the commander-in-chief, of the president, who holds 100% of executive authority in his hands. He has no excuse for not keeping his main promises. And this distraction to the foreign policy, it's not only not getting the base ginned up, but this was one of the things we loved about him. No more pointless wars. Bring the walls home. You're right, NATO is a crock.
Sure, yes.
Please start paying attention to America again.
Yes, and that's why I do want to turn focus to something a little more positive, which is the judicial picks, where he's either at record or on the verge of record appointments. They are conservative across the board. They're vetted by the very best people in Washington. And Ann, you were very instrumental in particular. We all almost had a heart attack when the Kethledge started to rise to the front in Breitbart land, but it was a good thing when Kavanaugh was the final guy. Talk to us a little bit about the president's victories on you're an attorney, of course, on the judge situation.
Well, they've been good, but you might be able to explain something. I've been meaning to look this up. I hear completely contradictory reports I just saw something, and I haven't read the details to see which one is right, that Trump has actually appointed fewer judges than Obama did, fewer judges than Bush did in the same amount of time, and strikingly fewer. So, I've been to about 10 lakes in America that are billed as the country's largest man-made lake. So there have got to be different ways of calculating this, like cubic.
Yeah, it might be different
water.
levels.
Is it shoreline? Is it length?
Sure.
So there have got to be different ways of calculating who appointed the most judges. But let's get going on that. That's really important. Yes, very happy with Kavanaugh and. Wow. I hope I'm here to live through Trump being able to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg because everything you've seen, the Cohen tape, the Helsinki meeting, it's going to be nothing compared to Trump being able to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, so for clarity, and again, listeners, I always invite you to be, and we have the hundreds of thousands of ombudsmen or ombuds people. I don't want to be discriminatory here at the show. So people will correct me if I get this wrong, but our own Ken Klukowski, our senior legal writer who's very dialed into this stuff, says that the president's 23 appellate judges confirmed in the first 2 years is a record.
Okay. So it's appellate judges. It's not including federal district judges, immigration judges. Oh, got it. Okay, thank you. That's what I figured. It was something like that.
Sure. And by the way, I'm eyeing a couple other seats for the president. So I'm hoping he'll get to 5 total picks. You guys can do the math there. I won't go through it in too much detail because I know I will trigger the last remaining liberals who listen to the show if I really go through that. But I don't think he's going to stop at Ginsburg. I think there's going to be a couple more, probably somewhere in the president's 3rd or 4th term. He'll have rounded out. If you think about it, he's on pace to have 10 picks at this point. So he's actually going to have to have.
Term. I like that.
Yeah, that's right. So he's on pace to. The thing is that there is some low level Soros-funded freak at Media Matters listening to the show right now who actually can't tell if I'm joking or not. That's all I had for you. You've been so generous with your time, and your sense of humor is always so wonderful on the show. Anything else to plug or talk about, or something you got to get off your chest in the time we have remaining?
August 21st, resistance is futile. How the Trump-hating left lost its collective mind.
All right. Can you get pre-order now?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So let's get some cover art up at Breitbart, Ann, and we'll get people motivated to read it. If you guys aren't reading Ann's book, you're depriving yourself. The one and only Ann Coulter, thanks again for joining us on Breitbart News Daily.
Good to talk to you, Alex. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Talk to you guys in just a couple of minutes on the other side of this break.